September 2025, a month that would soon be etched into the history books, marking the beginning of a new era in American economic policy. Former President Donald Trump steps onto the national stage once again, announcing sweeping new tariffs with a promise to revive American manufacturing. His message is clear and unmistakable: America first, no matter the cost. Imported goods, from electronics to everyday essentials, would be hit hard. The goal: make U.S. products more attractive by making foreign alternatives more expensive, shifting the balance of power back to American factories. The plan was simple in theory: raise prices on foreign goods, boost domestic industry, and bring jobs back home. It was a rallying cry for workers who felt left behind, a promise to restore the heart of American industry. But these tariffs weren't a gentle nudge, they were a sledgehammer. Doubling prices on some imports overnight, shoppers felt the sting at the checkout line and businesses scrambled to adjust. International partners braced for impact, knowing retaliation was inevitable. Around the world, leaders gathered in tense meetings, weighing their options and preparing countermoves. The administration believed America could strong-arm its way to prosperity, assuming other countries would simply accept the new rules. Confidence ran high in Washington, but uncertainty loomed everywhere else. But global trade isn't a zero-sum game. Every action has consequences, and the world's economies are more interconnected than ever before. A single move can ripple across continents. On September 25th, the first shots of this new trade war were fired. Headlines blared, markets trembled, and uncertainty spread like wildfire. The world watched, waiting to see if this bold strategy would spark a manufacturing renaissance or backfire, triggering higher costs and global retaliation. The stakes were high, and the details would determine whether this was a fortress of prosperity or a costly siege that would isolate America from its trading partners. The battle lines were drawn, and the economic fallout was about to begin. For millions of Americans, the coming months would reveal whether this bold promise would deliver hope or hardship. The tariffs hit Americans where it hurt most: their wallets. Suddenly, everyday expenses that people took for granted started to climb, and families across the country felt the squeeze. It wasn't just a line on a news ticker anymore, it was a reality at the kitchen table, in the pharmacy, and at the checkout counter. Essential medicines faced 100% tariffs, threatening to double drug prices. For those who relied on daily prescriptions, the fear was real. Would they be able to afford the medications they needed to stay healthy? Parents, seniors, and people with chronic illnesses all worried about how to make ends meet. Furniture, kitchen cabinets, and even heavy trucks were slapped with steep new taxes. Suddenly, remodeling a home or replacing a worn-out sofa became a luxury, not a necessity. Businesses that depended on imported goods faced mounting costs at every turn. Some pharmaceutical giants rushed to invest in U.S. factories, hoping to dodge the worst penalties. But building new facilities takes time, and for now, the supply chain was in turmoil, with uncertainty rippling through the industry. For most industries, though, the result was simple. Prices soared. Shoppers noticed the difference almost overnight, as familiar products suddenly cost more, and store owners scrambled to keep up with the changes. 60% of U.S. furniture is imported. Now, those costs were passed straight to consumers. The dream of a new couch or kitchen table was put on hold for many, as sticker shock set in. Businesses faced a tough choice: absorb the tariffs and risk shrinking profits, or raise prices and risk losing customers. Many small business owners felt trapped, caught between rising costs and anxious shoppers. The abstract idea of a trade war became real at the pharmacy and the furniture store. Suddenly, global politics was something you felt in your wallet, not just read about in the headlines. While the administration promised long-term gains, families faced immediate sticker shock. The cost of living jumped, and household budgets were stretched to the breaking point. Even the cost of transporting goods rose, making everything from groceries to electronics more expensive. Every link in the supply chain felt the impact, and those costs trickled down to the consumer. The grand economic experiment had begun, and the first result was clear: life in America was getting pricier. People everywhere were forced to make tough choices about what they could afford. The pain was immediate, and the promised benefits were nowhere in sight. For many, the future felt uncertain, and the only thing that was clear was that the cost of everyday life had gone up, fast. The world hit back, hard. China, America's top soybean buyer, slammed the door on U.S. exports in retaliation. Overnight, Midwest farmers lost their biggest customer. Silos filled with unsold crops, prices crashed, and family farms faced ruin. The administration offered bailouts, but farmers wanted trade, not aid. Generations of work were suddenly at risk, all because of a trade war they didn't start. China made it clear, no more soybeans until tariffs were lifted. Farmers were caught between US policy and foreign demands, their livelihoods collateral damage in a global standoff. The fields that once symbolized American productivity became a battleground. The tariffs aimed to protect manufacturing, but left agriculture exposed and vulnerable. The dream of shielding one industry had become a nightmare for another. In a global economy, no sector stands alone. The lesson was harsh trade wars create unexpected victims. The cost of protectionism was paid in the heartland. Retaliatory tariffs hit American whiskey, making it a luxury in overseas markets. U.S. distilleries watched sales plummet as their products became too expensive abroad. Meanwhile, Canadian whiskey, untouched by tariffs, became the new favorite in bars from Europe to Asia. Canadian distillers ramped up production, hiring more workers and seizing market share. America's loss was Canada's gain, all thanks to U.S. trade policy. The whiskey story was a microcosm. Tariffs meant to protect one industry often hurt another. For every American winner, there was a new foreign competitor ready to step in. The unintended consequences were clear and costly. Some companies, especially in pharmaceuticals, responded to tariffs by investing billions in new U.S. factories. The administration touted this as a win, jobs and investment coming home. But these projects take years, and the immediate pain of higher prices and supply chain chaos remained. Only the biggest corporations could afford to buy their way out of tariffs. Smaller businesses struggled. The policy created an uneven playing field, favoring giants and leaving others behind. For most industries, building new factories wasn't an option, they simply paid more or passed costs to customers. The new investments were real, but limited. The tariffs forced a few high-profile changes but didn't spark a broad manufacturing revival. Was this a true solution or just a temporary fix for a select few? The answer was becoming clear. Tariffs alone couldn't rebuild American industry. The costs were mounting and the benefits were narrow. The promise was jobs, lots of them. But the manufacturing boom never arrived. Despite new factory headlines, overall job growth in manufacturing was weak or even negative. Most new jobs appeared in government, healthcare, and hospitality, not on factory floors. Tariffs raised costs for U.S. manufacturers and closed off export markets, making it harder to hire. The vision of a blue-collar renaissance faded fast. Modern manufacturing relies on global supply chains and advanced skills. Tariffs couldn't change that overnight. The numbers told the truth, the jobs didn't come back. The gap between political promises and economic reality grew wider. The factory revival remained a mirage. Tariffs didn't just hit specific products, they disrupted entire supply chains. American companies built on global networks suddenly faced new taxes, delays, and uncertainty. Planning became impossible. Should businesses find new suppliers, raise prices, or halt investment? The constant threat of new tariffs created chaos, not confidence. The economic drag was massive, over $500 million in direct costs, lost business, and higher prices. Every industry felt the ripple effects, from steel to trucks to electronics. Tariffs on one sector raised costs for many others, proving that no industry is isolated. The policy became a self-inflicted tax on American businesses and consumers. The lesson in a connected world: disruption spreads fast. The price of protectionism was paid by all. When the dust settled, the winners were few: some big pharmaceutical firms, a handful of manufacturers, and Canadian whiskey distillers, who found new opportunities as tariffs shifted the market. These select industries managed to thrive, capitalizing on loopholes and sudden demand. But for most, the story was very different. The losers? American farmers, exporters, and small businesses and consumers facing higher prices at the checkout line, forced to make tough choices as everyday goods became more expensive. The policy meant to help the nation ended up dividing it, benefiting a select few while hurting many. The gap between winners and losers grew wider, fueling frustration and uncertainty. Trade isn't a simple game of countries, it's a complex web of relationships, supply chains, and livelihoods that cross borders every day. It's about winners and losers within our own borders, with real people and communities feeling the impact. The tariffs failed to deliver a manufacturing job boom, despite promises of revitalization and new opportunities. Instead, they succeeded in creating widespread disruption. Delays, shortages, and confusion rippled through the economy. Protectionism proved to be a blunt, unpredictable tool. In a global economy where every link is connected, building walls often means self-inflicted wounds, hurting the very people policies are meant to protect. Real strength comes from investment in skills, infrastructure, and the ability to adapt to change and innovation, not just taxes on imports. Collaboration, not confrontation, is what drives progress. Working together, across borders and industries, is the smarter path forward. The Great Tariff Experiment of 2025 was a costly reminder, one that echoed through factories, farms, and families alike. You can't wall yourself off from the world and expect to win. Isolation only leads to missed opportunities and lost potential. The lesson was clear: prosperity requires more than just closing the door. It demands openness, resilience, and a willingness to work together for a better future.